Hello, everybody. How many of you all know what a mercury switch is? I'm sure that they probably, now I'm not sure either. I assume that probably they're used in some industrial equipment. But back in the early 50s, those mercury switches were common. And I have got to give my father credit. Back in the 50s, when he worked at Oak Ridge, he told me to never, under any circumstances, have anything to do with any of that stuff. But my friends my age in grammar school, the thing was to make a 10-cent piece, a mercury dime we'll say, shine. You could rub mercury on those dimes, and you cannot believe how they would shine. And I've often thought, because I know some of those kids would put those dimes in their mouth, and I've often wondered how many really caused themselves some problems when they grew up from mercury poison. I don't know exactly when those mercury switches were discontinued, but I think they were used in common things, like switches in light switches maybe. And what the kids would do is break those containers. It was usually in a glass container. And they'd break those mercury switches open and rub them on money to make them shine. I was thinking of that this morning, and I am so thankful that my father was a cautious individual. Of course, my dad was a pretty smart dude. I shouldn't call him a dude, but he was a pretty smart guy. And he read continuously. So if anybody had written an article, even back in the early 50s, about mercury having some properties that would cause you a lot of problems, he knew of it. But anyway, he had given me orders to never fool with that mercury. And my friends, practically all my friends, they'd rub it on a 10-cent piece. And another thing I've thought about, the road that ran in front of my house was not paved back in the early 50s, the late 40s or early 50s. And to cut down on dust, rather than to pour water on the road, they would pour oil. And I'm sure a lot of that oil came from transformers or any industrial use of oil. They would spread it on the road, and I'm sure it was laced with PCBs. And there too, my dad told me to never walk in if the truck came by dumping oil on the dirt road, is to stay as far away from that as I possibly could. So I was just thinking of that this morning, and I thought I would do a video, and I'm sure some of my younger viewers are surprised to hear that actually occurred back when I was a child. But the big thing was rubbing mercury on coins to make them shine. In 2020, it's hard to believe that that was happening. Well, thank you. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.